I am sick. I feel like crap. I feel better than I did yesterday. Um, but instead of laying in bed, not doing anything, I feel well enough to make this video. Um, I watched a couple videos from a creator named Alina. And if you're watching this, this is kind of for you. Um, and I see the sadness there, and it looks somewhat familiar. I I can't know your sadness. Nobody can know. Um, Nobody can actually know each individual person's sadness. It's something that kind of belongs to us. This is our possession. We hold on to it. That's why we we don't let it go. It's one of the few things that we think is, I earned this. I earned this suffering. I'm only half kidding. I'm going to offer you a little bit of insight, and I hope it helps, because I think it's helped me sort of put things in perspective a bit. Your suffering is obviously real. You feel it. Every day you feel it. You wake up, it's there, and it doesn't seem to go away. And your suffering is not invalid. It's not invalid. You're suffering because really what's happening is this is all happening in your brain. But on a cognitive level, and I'm not a therapist or a neuro whatever. I don't know what's happening. This is just my personal insight. On a cognitive level, you have reasons for your suffering, right? I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not where I should be in life, I don't have any friends, I'm lonely, I'm this, I'm that, I'm lazy, I don't work, I don't, you know, you have all these reasons for why you're suffering. And so the reasons validate the suffering. But what validates the reasons? What validates the reasons? How do these reasons come about? It comes about by your assessment of reality, which is your perception, which is up here, it's mental. And this is the hard part. This is what is difficult. Your perception of reality is creating the reasons, which creates the suffering. Which means that in order to stop the suffering and to stop the reasons, you have to come back to accept that the way that you view the world and the way that the world enters your mind is being distorted, and it's incorrect. It is purely your perception that is creating this misery. And that's hard because we like to validate our suffering. As much as we don't consciously do it, we don't want to sit here and think, I've been suffering for this long for no reason, not understanding why. I would rather suffer and be correct in my suffering than to just admit that I don't know what I'm doing and I'm wrong. I'm not saying that's you, but it's a thing. It's a thing. Everything that you know about the world is wrong. It's inverted. This is what depression does. It inverts the world. It turns it inside out, and it cuts you off from joy. You can't actually feel joy. You can feel momentary happiness, a little bit of pleasure through all the various, addictions and stimulation that human beings pursue. But it's not the same as joy. Joy is fundamentally different. Joy is not based on momentary happiness. It is based on an understanding of the core components of reality. And you can't understand these core components if your worldview is inverted in such a way that your reality is being built by your mind, and your mind is just negative. It's adapted, it's maladapted from something that happened possibly a long time ago. It's trying to find out when or where it happened is pointless. Just know that it's a thing. Pain, I like to say, is a valuable teacher. It's a great teacher. You put your finger on the stove, don't do that again. But with depression, it takes us longer to learn that lesson. Depression is a stove in our mind. And as much as it hurts right now and feels like you're at your worst, you're actually right on the edge of something great. Because some people can go their whole lives feeling just a little bit of this, not great suffering and a little bit of happiness, and they live and die within this little spectrum. And that's just sad. To me, that's sad. It's not life. It's a simulation of being alive. It's not experiencing the fullness of life. But the way that depression makes you experience it is you're down here, and you stay down here, and your frequency is kind of like this, right? But the pain that you're feeling is a feedback mechanism from life as the stove. And you keep touching the stove, thinking that this is going to, I don't know, that you keep touching the stove because it makes you feel alive. You can't feel joy, so you might as well touch the pain. But the pain that you feel, this right here, remember what I said, your world is inverted by depression. So what you're feeling down here is not reality. Reality is actually up here. Okay? This is what the real world is, not this. It's this. And the pain that you feel is your brain, is you being down here. And reality, it's the conflict between your brain and reality, which is up here. Now, I'm not saying that, oh, well, you just need to go from here to here and you just do it like that. But you can. It's possible. But I think it comes through accepting that your worldview fundamentally is broken. And it's not your fault. Holding on to it is your fault. You have to let it go. And the great thing about pain is that it's going to help you let go, because you can't hold on to it anymore. It hurts too much. You can't hold on to things. You can't, one of the things that really got me to realize that was, something so silly is a manager at work. And, I was trying to figure out how to solve a problem. And I'm one of those people, I like to do things my way. And, I overstepped a boundary, and somehow it got back to my manager, and they just kind of reprimanded me for it. And I held on to that for a long time because I care about what they think for some reason. Their words, I use their words to beat myself up so I don't make that mistake again. But in reality, I was just trying to do the right thing. I was just trying to help the business. But this is an example of how trying to do the right thing, that is, you put that aside and you take in these negative thoughts and you hold them there and you use them to hurt yourself, is what's happening. You're hurting yourself with your own thoughts. And that's because of how your brain is set up. I think all brains have this, but for depressed people, it's worse. You know, negativity or negative experiences, there's a bias in the brain that holds on to negativity for survival reasons. But we are in a constant state of survival. Everything is life or death to a depressed person. You're in fight or flight all the time. That's why you're tired. You can't live in that state. Your brain is conserving energy for this doomsday that's never going to come, but it's this neurological doomsday that you live every single day, waiting for these thoughts to come to fruition, and where you're going to be punished, you know, for your behavior or whatever. I'm getting a little off track here, but the pain that you feel, it's not that it's not real. It's that it is a function of your detachment to reality, which is actually up here. And what is this? It's the opposite of this. It's just me. I'm all alone. I can't feel anything. There's no joy in life. It's hopeless. I don't know why I'm here. I'm wasting time. I'm not successful. I'm not popular. I'm not, you know. Reality is up here, and our brains can't accept that. Our brains don't want to accept it because it means that we're wrong, and all this suffering that we're doing is not valid, and we can't have that. It feels yucky. It feels like, how could I be so stupid? But you have to let that go, because you should be living up here. There's no reason you can't live up here. Just because your brain is working a certain way, you can undo it. It's possible. But you have to give up. You have to give up your own suffering. You have to give up this idea that I know. You don't know. That's the beginning of knowledge. You don't know. And what you don't know is everything. It's all there. And it's waiting for you. Life is waiting for you. You haven't even started your life yet. You're ready to give up. You haven't even turned the key. And if you can understand that, that is the truth. There's hope. And it's not a false hope. It's actually real. Because if you know that your brain is inverted, just like the key in ignition, you can start it. And what happens when you start it? It's the fullness of life. There is a fullness to life. You are not alone. Okay? Even in your suffering, you're not alone. Life itself is a miracle. And we can't accept that because our worlds feel like shit. They just do. But again, this is our brain inverted. It feels like shit. But in reality, it's the opposite. It is love and connectivity and everything that you're missing if you can just get over yourself. And I don't mean that in a mean way. It's to accept that I am wrong about reality. I'm not wrong in how I feel, but I'm wrong in how I observe the world. And therefore, everything that follows is wrong. It's incorrect. It's not accurate. It's inaccurate. And the important thing is that you know and feel that this inversion of the world is real. It's not a fiction. It's not ignorance. When you're depressed, sometimes, I say this from personal experience, you invalidate other people's happiness. You think there's no way that they're really happy. They're probably just faking it. It's social media, so everybody's, and it could be true that a lot of people on social media are not actually happy and they're just faking it. But you tend to block love out and say that this is a fabrication that I don't have access to. So it's not real. The only thing that's real is suffering. But it's the opposite. The suffering is a fabrication of your mind. And the love that you're seeing is actually real, but you're denying your senses. That's the crazy part. You can see love in the world. You can hear it in music. You can see it all around you. You can see people holding hands, all of this. But it doesn't compute. It doesn't actually click that love is there. You don't see it. So that is further proof that your senses are lying to you, or at least your brain is manipulating your senses to paint a certain reality, which is not in alignment with the way things are. So I don't want to make this too much longer. I'll just say that you're on the edge of something great, not your total implosion, not, the end of your life. It's the end of your suffering. You are reaching the end where you can't take it anymore, and you'll be able to actually let it go. And if you can do that, it will open you up to the possibility of what life actually is. And there is a whole expression of life all around you that is numb. You don't have the senses for it because depression turns it off. It turns off this sixth sense of what's actually happening. And it's not out of reach for you. That's the important takeaway. It's not just for certain special people. We're all humans. We are all born with essentially the same programming. It's the learned behavior that messes us up a lot of times. And so you can get back to that. And there's different ways to get back to it. But the first step is to say, you know what? I've been wrong this whole time. Just start there. If you can start there, then your reasons for suffering and the suffering, you can start to internalize as this is just BS. It's BS. It's made up. I hope this helps. And, I hope that you can make videos where you're smiling and you have the joy and the fullness of life in you. Because you can, and you will. You will. I believe it. Thank you.